Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mental Health Awakening, and today me and Angela are joined by Kierran Pearce, and today's topic is teenage mental health. So Angela, over to you for your little introduction.
I'm Angela Jackson. I'm a licensed professional counselor with national certification in the state of Tennessee, the USA. Glad to partner with the UK. I want to let you know I am a therapist, not your therapist, but I'm glad to be a part and share in this mental health awakening. Very excited to hear from our guest today.
Yeah, and Kierran, over to you.
So my name's Kierran. I lead the Multi-Schools Council, which is all about challenging negative perceptions towards people with special educational needs and mental health challenges. So that's done in Essex, in the UK, and that looks at working with schools, working with communities, and helping give children a voice as well, to challenge some of the things that they want to challenge.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, of course, with the Multi-School Council, of course, I know about the Multi-School Council, Kierran. I don't think Angela does too much. So maybe to start, maybe you could just give an overview about what the Multi-School Council does and what it is. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I set the Multi-Schools Council up was because a young person, very similar to yourself, Mason, who I know you know quite well, so Charlie. Charlie's fantastic young girl who said that she felt people didn't really understand people's differences enough, and we needed to do something about that. So I said, okay, Charlie, how are we going to do that? And she said, well, let's look at educating people while they're still in school. So let's go into schools, let's talk about autism, ADHD, mental health, and let's get children from special schools and mainstream schools come together and kind of come up with some of those ideas. So that was back in 2012. Ever since then, it's grown. We've included more and more schools along our journey. So we started with 4, now we have over 400. And the idea really is to build on what the young people want to see in schools. We've taken on various different projects linked to what they want to see. And really, it's just about continuing to put the profile out there, make sure enough people are educated, there's more acceptance, and also challenge some of the things, that are big issues for children. So at the moment, they want to focus on things like racism, animal cruelty, and keeping active, because they think that, they're 3 really key things, as well as all the other things that link to SEN.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing that information. Creating awareness through education, through inclusion, through motivation, all of these things are very important. And especially for adolescents, especially for teenagers, especially for what we call middle school kids, middle school and high school ages, because they are, oh goodness, they're learning some things from society and how they socialize and self-image and things of that nature. So differences are very important to that age group. So I'm sure you guys are doing it sounds like you're doing awesome work, and it's very impactful, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it's empowered by people like Mason. So not just saying it because Mason's sitting here now, but he's one of our ambassadors, and you help drive forward that work, don't you, Mason?
Yeah, I think we got something kind of up in for Mental Health Awareness Month. I think it's like not specifically mental health, but like people. It's I think we went to the venue, didn't we, Kierran? And we saw it, and I think I'm doing a speech about autism. I think, but by the time this episode goes out, I might already done it. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, it's really good. Like the Multi-School Council, like it's good for people listening or watching now if they don't already know what it is, because it is a really good thing to get involved. And I think like the Multi-School Council is looking for other people outside of Essex, isn't it, Kierran, as well?
Yeah, so at the moment, the majority of our work is based in Essex, because that's where, the local authority help fund that work, because again, we're really passionate that this should all be free. This should just be available in schools, but we don't want to stop with Essex. We want to grow in the UK, first of all, and make sure there's other areas. And we have got some other areas already linked in, such as Norfolk and Hertfordshire. But eventually, who knows, we could have a world multi-schools council. We could be speaking to you, Angela, in the US, who knows? because from what we hear, this type of awareness is needed everywhere.
Everywhere. That's true. That's awesome.
Yeah, because like it's like you speak to different people from in other countries, and they do struggle, and like especially like with freedom of speech as well. Kierran, like Multi-School Council allows that, and other countries are not as fortunate to be allowed to do that, and that it's sad, like in other countries, and at the moment especially, like the freedom of speech isn't like kind of allowed, and it's a crime. So it's good that Multi-School Council offers that.
Yeah, you're right, Mason. It is that, and it's making sure people understand the rights of children, and the fact that the children do have a voice. So you're absolutely right, Mason. We'll definitely keep pushing that agenda.
Yeah, because there's meetings all the time, isn't there?
There is. Yeah, you guys are involved in lots. Keep us busy.
Yeah.
Lots of work to do.
Yeah, and like if we go on to like teenage mental health, Kierran, like because as kind of like you're the main, well, I'll say you're the boss of the Multi-School Council, I'd say. Like with everyone, and like how, like I suppose with all that pressure on you for like with organising these meetings, like how does that start with you put on your mental health?
That's a really good question, Mason. I think I take a lot of things in my stride, but that's, practice over years and years, making sure that, I've worked on myself, I've developed experience to kind of cope with that. You have to have your coping mechanisms. And I think some of those coping mechanisms for me personally are things like exercise, for example, making sure that, I still find time to exercise because I know that that supports my mental health. Having good people around me. So I have a really good family, really good friends as well, because you can't do it all on your own. But also remembering why you do things. So yes, Mason, sometimes there is a lot to do, but actually I quite enjoy that. And I know I enjoy that. And it's about making sure that you enjoy what you do. Because work shouldn't just be, in my opinion, somewhere where you just go to work because you earn money. It should, for me, be about what you get from that experience. So I love working with young people, and I think that won't ever change. But there is a balance, and it's about accepting that you can't do everything at once. So you could sit down and you could probably every day think about something more that you could do, but you can't ever do everything. So I think it's really important that when you lead an organization, or even if you're captain of a team or whatever it might be, that you have realistic expectations of yourself and you don't try and push yourself too far.
I love that. You said some really amazing things as it relates to maintaining your own mental health in a leadership position, in the work that you do. It's important to prioritize. You have to do that. We're not excluded, right? If you're involved in something, you experience stressors, you experience all of these other external factors that could potentially weigh you down in some way. And knowing, you said something important, balance, that's what's going to help you prioritize. That's what's going to help with identifying action steps, not doing everything at once, and accepting that, hey, if I only completed 5 things today, that's enough for today. I feel accomplished and fulfilled for today. And working with children, having that mindset that you described, that can be very fulfilling and rewarding in itself. Being able to practice what you preach, so to speak, being aware, being honest about how life itself can affect your mental health. And just what you said would be a great teaching tool for young people is you can't do everything all at once. You're going to feel overwhelmed. Slow down a little bit, take your time, So those are definitely some great points. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, because like I think it's right what you said as well. Like you have to enjoy your job, because like some people are unfortunate that they have a job that they don't enjoy, that and it is hard to find a job, isn't it? Really, like it's hard to get one that you like and are good at because it's hard as well because when you're young as well they in schools especially don't they, Kieran and Angela, they ask you what do you want to do for a job, and you think to yourself, hang on a minute, I'm just still in education at the moment, I'm not kind of thinking about that, I want to enjoy my school life, possibly going into college as well, and then not thinking about that, and then it's hard, isn't it?
It's really hard, and I know Angela highlighted the word balance a few minutes ago after what I said, and I think that's really key for teenagers. I know that's the focus today because it's a time in your life where there is so much going on. So you're changing, your body's changing. There are pressures around exams. There are pressures around making friendships, building all of those things in, your family pressures potentially. There is a lot to consider. And so, as you say, Mason, when you're then maybe getting asked questions like, what do you want to do in 10 years or 15 years? It's really hard to answer, isn't it? Because you're in that moment. And again, it's about having a balance of not trying to look too far ahead, I think, and try and focus on you and developing, but also, just having a direction that you feel comfortable with. So that's the most important thing. Others might say, you're good at this, you're good at that. And it's good to take advice and good to listen, but actually it's got to be comfortable with you. And I think it's about developing your resilience at that age as well. And Mason, you've heard me talk about that lots. Yeah. Life is not going to be always plain sailing. And I think we'd be lying to people if we tell them that. So it's about accepting, okay, how can I become more resilient? How am I going to be not just in the good times, but when things are a little bit difficult as well?
Yes. So with the teenagers that you work with, what do you find are some of the struggles right now? What's more immediate that's affecting the teenagers right now?
Okay, so the biggest thing we found over the last couple of years of our work is children's or teenagers' levels of self-esteem being really, really low. So those are self-opinions of themselves, not being able to even name anything that they're good at because they think that they're just, useless. There's some of the terms that have been used. And when we ask children about, why is that? What's impacting that? Two of the things that come out all the time are schools. So the fact that sometimes it might be similar in the US, I don't know, Angela, but in the UK, the way the education system's set up, sometimes it makes it as if, children are also always comparing themselves against others. And actually for someone's self-worth, that's not always very helpful because there may always be somebody who can read better or I don't know, run faster, but actually that shouldn't be your comparison. It should be about yourself. So that's schools. But the other big thing is social media and how teenagers start using that, more and more. Some of them do anyway at that kind of teenage age, and the negative impact that can have. So, people talk to us about Instagram, maybe comparing themselves to a certain picture or a certain lifestyle and thinking, why do I not look like that? Or why is my life not like that? So again, it's that comparison and the impact it can have on self-esteem. So we're looking to actively do something about that in Essex. We're going to try and create like an awareness program to support children's self-esteem. But the other thing, obviously, if we're talking current, is the impact of COVID. So again, that's a worldwide pandemic, and it's impacted children in different ways. So some children enjoyed the experience of being able to learn virtually and spend time with family and maybe build closer relationships. Others have found that really challenging, and not being able to socialize with people their own age, they've really struggled. So there's some of the key points I think that are coming out right now.
Okay. And I can agree that some of those are very similar to the US. Some children don't like to wear uniforms. The idea is that the uniforms kind of normalize. No one has to get picked on because they have or have not, as far as, what they wear to school. There's more focus on the schoolwork as opposed to, what you're wearing that day, kind of the little fashion show thing going on. So that, the comparison in general for someone who may not have a pair of Nikes or who may not have a certain brand, that creates and fosters self-doubt. And you said it, I was thinking it as you mentioned social media, that comparison from the adolescents on up to the adults, it creates a level of self-doubt, because as opposed to doing your absolute best or doing better for yourself, you're trying to meet someone else's goals, it's like, so who's going to be you? You're unique, you're important, so definitely motivating the adolescents in that area. And I'm sure self-image as it relates to either weight or appearance, all of those things that plays into it quite a bit. We've also seen a lot of increase as far as suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation as a result of what you're talking about, that self-doubt, that comparison and things like that. So, oh goodness, when the pandemic started, you saw counselors and therapists and programs just being birthed out of this, out of necessity. So this all is definitely huge.
Yeah. Like I agree. Like with lots with doing different programs. Like I think we did a Reach Out Speak Up one, a Reach Out Speak Up program to boost children's confidence, and that, like, speaking about the pandemic, that was affected by it. I think we only started that at the start, and where things were starting to, we were starting to hear more of the pandemic. So I say it was done at the right time in this pandemic, because it wasn't long. I think it was a maximum of a few weeks, so it wasn't a long program. But then the following year, we decided to do it online, and it was good, but it didn't work as well, because I don't think we had as many people, and because of other programs going on at the moment, I think it's only right if we continue that program again in person, because I think, if you agree with me, Kierran, like I think that program is best in person than virtually.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think from what we heard from the children who accessed that program, they preferred it in person. Because if you talk about stepping outside your comfort zone and developing your confidence, sometimes in person that might be easier to do, because on the computer, obviously that's a little bit harder to maybe push yourself further. But yeah, again, linking back to what Angela was saying around that self-image, and again, if there's that lack of confidence and they aren't able to speak out, then that can become, masked. It can become just sitting there on somebody, and that kind of concern and that self-doubt can grow and grow if there's not that support or outlet. So yeah, same, Angela. I think in the UK, we've certainly seen, a development in the amount of services that are out there and the amount of need. And for me, just in our work, I would say the need is still outweighing what's available. There still isn't enough. So there's definitely, a need for more.
Yeah, definitely. So where do you start? Where's the starting point as far as your program? Do you start maybe with self-image or self-care? Do you start with, identifying the teenager's personal interest, or is there a point where they're setting goals? What kind of activities do you start with?
Yeah, so a combination of them really, Angela. And when we're in the kind of process of developing it right now, and our starting point, like anything we do, so Mason will know this, is we always start by talking to young people. So we've done a big piece of work across Essex where we've spoken to, over 500 young people from different backgrounds with different abilities, talking to them about self-esteem, what influences it. And so what we started to do is draft out the program. And you're right, one of the things it definitely looks at is setting goals for yourself and making it personal. Again, looking at the impact of social media and how you might be able to manage that better, because from what a lot of children say is they've just been, like all of us, given, social kind of media, and there's no manual on how to use it. There's no real direction. It's up to you, isn't it? How much time you spend on it, those things. So unless you have those boundaries that you put in place yourself, you could sit on there all day and night. So I think there's a lot around that. There's a lot around that self-actualization. So actually, again, being able to say what you're good at, which again, culturally in the UK, I don't know, again, if it's the same in the US, people feel quite embarrassed to say, I'm good at this, or I did a good job today. And actually it's about changing that mindset a little bit. It is okay to say you did a good job. It doesn't make you overconfident or big-headed. It's actually good for us to kind of welcome our qualities. So there's some of the standout things so far, but we're working with some educational psychologists, some other teaching professionals, and we've got some mental health teams working in schools. So we want to work collaboratively, not just from the multi-schools. So we make sure we get something that's really good, but also works for children with additional needs, because that will be our starting point. Too many times in this country, we get something that is put in to support people, and then afterwards it's, how might we adapt this for children with autism? Actually, we should start with that first, and then we might be able to obviously adapt things from there. So that's what we'll be doing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I've got an idea here, Kierran, because as you know, like I think the education system, like not sure in the UK, Angela, but in the US, sorry, in the UK, I think it needs quite a lot of improving, with different people. And as you know, I was at mainstream school, and then I went over to special school, as Kierran knows. And what would be really interesting is if like the young people within Kierran and even the teenagers maybe went to a nearby mainstream school, and just was just allowed, I suppose, just to go in and see, go for a lesson and see what's different, maybe, or like the teenagers from when they was at school, maybe, because I'm always interested in, like, has it changed? Has mainstream school changed? Has schools changed since you was at school? Or like, has the learning changed? Has the way they teach changed, the way they speak? So that's an idea, like maybe to do that, because I think it would be interesting for me, especially because it would be nice to see, is it different? Is it the same?
I agree. We started, as you've probably seen, Mason, the Good Practice Seekers project, which is basically is children going into different schools to look at how inclusive they are. And actually, they've designed a framework about what inclusion means to them, to look at, what supports different needs, including mental health needs, and maybe what schools could be doing more of. I know Essex are developing something around the ordinary available, so making sure that that support is always available, and there's different layers of that support. So yeah, I share that, Mason. I think it's about keep pushing that.
Yeah. And that sounds like that quality assurance piece, getting the feedback, finding out what's working, what else is needed. Kierran, I like that you talked about that collaborative approach between other professionals, between mental health, between educators, and things like that. And that definitely is huge, to help spread the awareness, to help provide overall care as far as the program and support for the kids. Do you get a lot of support from the parents?
It varies, I think. So the majority of our work has been focused on young people and working with them directly, so that, because we appreciate that you get some really supportive families, some really supportive parents who will obviously encourage their children to get involved in those things. And on the flip side, you can sometimes get resistance. Not that I see that as a massive negative, because it could be based on their own experiences of how other services have worked with them before. So there might be that reluctance, and also that kind of thing of, can that child go and do that, or are they being held back? It's that balance, isn't it? And so we have to respect that, parents will know their children, but we also have to respect, as Mason said earlier, that children do have a voice. So I think it's that word we used earlier, balance, again, make sure we have a balance. So we've had both sides of the coin, I think, with that one.
Yeah, I asked that question because, even with counseling services or therapy, when you work with kids, somewhere along the line, you're going to end up working with the parents too, whether it's, buying in and supporting the program, encouraging that participation. And like you said, sometimes there is that resistance. And even in those cases and situations, those parents need the education as well, and it's good that the opportunity is there. I love that you've said it several times. I love that you focus on the voice of the children, because sometimes there's that space where parents say it's my way. This is what you do. This is what, but including them in the things that are going to support, nurture, and help to grow that mental strength, that emotional intelligence, and then have that support around the things that are different about their child. And, the reality is that there are a lot of parents who don't understand ADHD. There are a lot of parents who don't understand tools and techniques to work with a child who has autism, or even trauma. I've even heard a parent say, I did not realize that my child suffered from this particular loss. And I thought, man, they're human. If you were affected by a loss of any kind that brought up any traumatic or feelings or symptoms of grief, that child is feeling those same things, and they had been left out of that healing process. So, sometimes it is important to have that, thumbs up or that buy-in from the parents, especially if there have been levels of confidence or maybe a history of trauma that has been unaddressed. So, yeah, I love the collaborative approach. It's needed.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kierran, it'd be good if we can go into maybe like your mental health as maybe a teenager, because it'd be nice to hear about your school life a little bit maybe, and how that was for your mental health.
Yeah, so I'm always very honest, because I think if I'm always preaching that, it's good for us to be able to talk openly about mental health, that, I'd be wrong if I didn't. So yeah, in my own schooling, there were times that I did find really, really difficult. I'd say for lots of different reasons. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's a big time in your life where your body's changing, there's lots of hormones, there's lots going on. You're discovering lots of things at that age as well, like some positive, some negative. And I think, there was a time within my teenage years where that probably all became too much, and the way I managed things wasn't healthy. So then that would kind of provoke anger. So my kind of way of dealing with things, I didn't deal with it. So then I would just get angry. And that would result in, poor decisions in school, which then resulted in exclusions. So where I was out of school, which then, when you're out of school and you're not becoming educated, again, you might find yourself getting involved in other things that aren't so positive. And I think it all just became too much. So there was a point within my teenage years where I didn't want to be alive anymore. And I did, make an attempt to try and take my own life. And I think at that point, that was a real, real low. And that was almost like that final cry for help. Like, I couldn't ask for help personally. So I needed to show it in a way that wasn't healthy, because that's what I thought was the only route and the only option I had. So at that point, I then did get more support. There was a fantastic teacher who I worked with while I was at school. Her name was Kierran Emery, who's sadly no longer with us. But she was great, because people will say to me, oh, what did she do that was so great? And I'll always say, she just listened. So she didn't have a magic wand, because obviously nobody does. And, she gave her views on things, but ultimately, in terms of improving and getting a grip of some of the things that were difficult for me, I had to do that myself. But Keris was there to listen and to just be that kind of, people say, that shoulder to lean on, or whatever. She was that person. So that was really key. And then it was about going from there. And obviously, on leaving school, I would say it was at that real kind of delicate time. I was over maybe where I felt I was at the lowest, but I still wasn't very clear on what I wanted to do. I wasn't always making the best decisions, but I was very lucky to then start in a job where it's ever since then I've just really grown, and I've found something that I'm really passionate about. And then obviously growing up, you start to learn more about yourself. You start to, the outlets I spoke about earlier, you start to have some really good people around you who support you. And yeah, all of that takes time, I think. But I think it's important to have good people. So like Keris I spoke about earlier, not everybody's lucky enough to have a Keris. But it's about making sure now, I wish I could go back and say that it's okay to talk about things that make you feel not okay. Because at that time I didn't, and then it just stayed there, and then I just got angrier and angrier. So yeah, in a nutshell, I'd say that's kind of, in terms of what you wanted us to talk about, Mason, that was my experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, Kierran, because as mental health is, it's a very strong topic, isn't it? And it's hard to kind of speak about that kind of stuff, and as well. But yeah, I'm sorry about Keris and passing away, because I imagine that really hard. I knew, especially having your teacher, your role model that you'd go to when you were struggling, or like you say, someone to listen, because that's all we really need. It's it's someone to listen if you're struggling. I say at school, I did have that teacher that I'd go to, like Miss Halls. You know her, Kierran. Yeah. She was a teacher that I kind of looked up to out of school, more towards the end, because that's where I know her a bit more, of course. But yeah, I would say they were my best years at school, because that, although it wasn't part of getting diagnosed with Crohn's, even those last 2 years wasn't nice, but they're very understanding and like there if you want to talk. So yeah, I'm sorry about how you felt about self-harming as well. So because I know how that can impact you with school.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked through it now, Mason. So it's one of those things, like I say, I don't mind sharing it at all. When I said to you and Angela before we come on, I think it's important that people do talk about their experiences. And in terms of Keris, obviously, yeah, it's very sad, it is upsetting, but I kind of use it as drive now to work even harder. So she's inspired me, and I think she's one of the reasons, consciously or subconsciously, that I've gone into education, because she helped me so much, kind of want to do what she did in another way. So a lot of what I do, I think, I'm going to work even harder, because I know that that's what she would have wanted to have seen in the end. So yeah
I appreciate you sharing that part of your story also, because it definitely supports the work that you do. Kids and teenagers, they want to know that you're human. They want to know that you're a person that they can relate to, and they want to see someone who is already 5-6 steps ahead of them. Experience is something that they look for, the support, the presence. And a lot of times they don't care. And there's a saying that says people don't really care how much you know, they want to know how much you really care, and I may have messed that up, but you get the gist of it. It's you can have all of the education, you can have all of the degrees, but can you feel what I'm feeling? Can you share in my pain? Can you be present when I need it most? Or can you listen to what I have to say? Are you able to relate to my hurts? And regardless of different situations, like you mentioned, there's, a level of stress, a level of frustration that comes, and we might be experiencing different things, but hurt feels the same to all of us, So I'm glad that you had a person that was very supportive and present when you were in that stage. That's important there.
Yeah, thank you. And then also to mention that, really good family as well, who were really supportive at that time, which which massively helps. But also to say that, you know, like you said, those 5-6 steps ahead, which, you know, like you say, I've gone for that journey, but also to say that I'm definitely not perfect. And there'll be lots of times where I make mistakes, definitely continue to make mistakes throughout 20s, going into my 30s now as well. And I know that, but I think it's about, like I said earlier, having outlets and accepting that you can't get everything right all of the time.
Yeah. There's another way, you know. You don't want to make a permanent decision on a temporary challenge, a temporary issue. And just, it's important, you know, as it relates even to the topic, teenagers and mental health, helping them to learn and embrace that emotional intelligence. You said that other things were going on which caused you to be angry. There's always, you know, anger and being mad. That's the secondary emotion. What were you feeling first? Were you embarrassed? Were you confused? Did you feel left out? Were you sad? You know, what was happening that caused you to be angry? Did you feel left out? And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't embrace the true feeling behind it. Some people can name 5 emotions on one hand, you know, and because that's maybe what we were taught, that's maybe all that we were taught. But there's so much more to that emotional piece, and then the understanding of it. You know, you might have felt rejected, you might have felt neglected, you know, depending on what life is bringing your way. As we mentioned before, the comparison piece, the, you know, figuring out, where do I fit in?
Yeah.
Do I have friends? You know, how do I adjust to maybe a new diagnosis? How do I adjust to, you know, not being able to rest or having racing thoughts? And Mason and I can relate because we've shared before, we both have a Crohn's diagnosis. So my passion is connecting with newly diagnosed patients, whether they're children, whether they're adolescents, whether they're adults, because one of my hardest times was getting a diagnosis and feeling like I had no support, getting a diagnosis and feeling like no one understood what I was going through. One, because they hadn't heard about it. 2, I was given, you know, trial and error instructions, and I get it, that's the part of the medical piece where they had to figure some things out. But oh my goodness, it was a very lonely time to be in a place with a new diagnosis that you did not understand, and then to have no one who could support you. I felt like it was an attack. I felt like I was attacked in some way, even by friends, even by family who didn't understand it, because they automatically defaulted to, you're feeling this way because of something you did wrong. You're feeling this way because of maybe something you put into your body. You know, so it was not necessarily hearing my emotions or validating where I was and understanding that I'm dealing with an adjustment and a full life change, but it was more of, what did you do? You know, yeah. And sometimes kids hear that, you know, what did you do? Why did you make this decision? When teenagers are impulsive, teenagers can, you know, they take risk, whether positive or negative, they're going to do it and maybe think about it later, you know, and they might have a feeling, they might have a thought, boom, reactionary, you know. So having programs that provide a level of guidance, heading them in the right direction, kind of catching those those jumps, you know, that sometimes, you know, I remember being a teenager, I would take a leap and then think, how did I get here? You know, so support, whether community-based, whether family, and then getting involved in, you know, groups or things like that. It's oh my goodness, it can impact the whole situation. It can develop people like Mason, like you, like me, who can share their stories and then be in a great position to advocate, you know?
Definitely. and using those qualities you spoke about there, you know, they can be, like you said, they can be negatives if we don't make the right choices. But like, I know myself, I can be quite impulsive, definitely a deep thinker, but it's about how you use that in a positive way. So like, can you channel that into something? So with the line of work that I do now, like you say, that kind of drive and passion is in something that I know is hopefully really, really positive. And yeah, using it that way instead.
Awesome. I'm excited for you guys. This is an awesome program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been 2012, seems ages away, doesn't it, Kierran?
10 years now, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah.
Is it 10 years, is it?
Yeah.
Are you good? We're doing something for an anniversary or something?
I think we'll have to discuss that. I think at the next, the
Yeah.
next ambassador meeting, we'll have to talk about what we do at 10 years. So I might make a note of that now, Mason, so I don't forget.
Yeah, now you say that, I think that'd be a good idea. I know we're doing something in August for the midnight walk, but it'd be nice to do something maybe later on in the year, maybe like the autumn, like October time or something.
I'm writing it down as we speak, Mason.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Cool. That is so cool.
because, for example, like TV shows have like specials, don't they? Or like shows, they have like anniversaries. Like shows are like, so organizations like, I think the National Autistic Society, for example, that I think they've hit 60 years that they've been running this year. So 10 is only a start, Kierran.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, plenty more of them to come.
Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome.
It could do something else, but yeah, I'm sure that would be discussed in future meetings.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Kierran, tell us how viewers and listeners can connect with the program or with you or with anything coming up.
Okay, so social media wise, again, we've been influenced by children. So we're on Facebook because they said that's a really good tool for us to use. So you can simply search the Multi-Schools Council on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, as Mason knows, because I don't lead the Instagram page. That's led by the young people. And Mason, you might know better than me. Can you remember the credentials for the Instagram?
I think it's the same, isn't it? The Multi-School Council. I think it has a couple of underscores in there, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's it.
But I think like it's the same. Like the Multi-School Council, you'll find it on there, and I think automatic posts go on there via the Instagram and the Facebook anyway, so it's all there.
Yeah, we've been starting to try and link it up. So yeah, Mason's right. It's the _multischools_council. So you can like and follow those because that will give you information. You've also got our website, which is www.multischoolscouncil.org. So you can go on there and you can find out more about the Multi-Schools Council and everything that we're doing. And you'll find the email address on there. So we're always looking to, as we spoke about earlier, collaborate with different groups, different professionals. The website is multischoolscouncil.org.uk. I mustn't forget that. So yeah, we're always looking to connect with different people. So the email address on there that you'll see is mschoolscouncil@gmail.com.
Yeah, maybe nice some people from America, Angela, maybe.
That's right. Yeah. Always looking to collaborate. Yes.
Yeah. And I think before we finish, is there, Angela, is there any last thing you want to say before we finish?
Oh goodness, I'm so glad to have been a part of this conversation. And I'm pretty sure it's a nationwide thing or international. But May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We are raising awareness all month long, encouraging you all to follow the multi-school councils, to follow Mason on Instagram, Facebook, and he can share his handle there. But definitely taking the time to educate our children, taking the time to focus on their mental health is very important. And there's a need for this to continue and to have those, difficult conversations that surround the stigma around mental health as a whole. We need to definitely focus on the children, especially the ones that are transitioning from adolescence to adulthood. You know, that's a very crucial time. So I appreciate the program, appreciate all of the information that has shared. And it sounds like 10-year anniversary, you guys have already made a great impact.
Thank you. Well, and thank you, Angela. Thank you, Mason, for obviously thinking of us and having us on. And yeah, as you say, hopefully more people can listen to this and never feel embarrassed to talk about their mental health, because it shouldn't be, you know, an embarrassing subject. It just be something that, you know, we encourage people to openly talk about. So yeah, thank you both for doing all of this.
Yeah, I think it was good, like, to have you on, Kierran, because I think mental health is a good topic, and like it's nice to hear about your personal experiences as well, because like I think like we said before, that we don't like you being part of the Motor School Council, you don't really hear much of your journey as such. Like you more hear about the young people's journeys, because it's all about the young people. So it's nice to hear about your experiences today.
Thank you. Thanks, Mason.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and everyone who's watching and listening, but be sure to like stay tuned with the Motor School Council, because that there will be a midnight walk event hosting in, I think, the 1st of August. So like there'll be more information about that, and the 10th anniversary, which I've only just found out there is the 10th anniversary for the Motor School Council, but I think we should all maybe have a little clap at the end for that. Yeah, but thank you all, and we'll see you in the next episode of Mental Health Awakening. Thanks, guys.